Around 3,200 years ago, something strange happened across the ancient Mediterranean. Great kingdoms that had survived for centuries suddenly began to collapse. Cities were burned. Trade routes were disrupted. Palaces were abandoned. Entire populations disappeared or were forced to flee. And at the center of this mysterious disaster was a group known only as the Sea Peoples. We don't actually know what they called themselves. We don't know exactly where they came from. And most surprisingly, we still don't know whether they were one unified army at all. Ancient Egyptian records describe waves of foreign warriors arriving by land and sea during the final years of the Bronze Age. They attacked coastal settlements and challenged some of the most powerful civilizations of their time. Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses III claimed to have defeated them in one of the ancient world's most dramatic battles. But the mystery goes much deeper. Because the Sea Peoples appeared during a period when the entire Bronze Age world was already under enormous pressure. The Hittite Empire was collapsing. The great city of Ugarit was destroyed. Mycenaean palace centers in Greece were falling. And across the eastern Mediterranean, a civilization that had dominated for centuries seemed to be breaking apart. So who were these mysterious invaders? Were they pirates searching for food and land? Refugees escaping famine and war? Mercenaries who turned against their employers? Or did they represent something even bigger? A massive migration that helped bring the Bronze Age to an end? The evidence is scattered across ancient inscriptions, ruined cities, shipwrecks, and archaeological discoveries. And every new discovery seems to answer one question, while creating another. To understand the Sea Peoples, we have to travel back to the late Bronze Age. Around 1200 BC, the eastern Mediterranean was home to a remarkable network of powerful kingdoms. Egypt controlled enormous territories. The Hittite Empire ruled much of Anatolia. The Mycenaeans dominated parts of Greece. And cities such as Ugarit connected merchants, rulers, and traders across the Mediterranean and Near East. These civilizations were deeply connected. They traded metals, timber, grain, luxury goods, and weapons. A ship leaving one port could carry goods that had traveled hundreds of miles from another kingdom. But this interconnected world had a weakness. If one major region suffered a crisis, the effects could spread rapidly. And around the beginning of the 12th century BC, that appears to be exactly what happened. Archaeologists have discovered evidence of destruction at numerous settlements. Some cities were burned. Some were abandoned. Some were never rebuilt. The ancient city of Ugarit provides one of the most fascinating clues. Letters discovered there suggest that its rulers were desperately seeking help as hostile forces approached. Then the city was destroyed. The people who lived there left behind buildings, tablets, weapons, and everyday objects frozen at the moment of collapse. But the destruction wasn't limited to one city. Across the region, political systems were breaking down. Trade networks weakened. Palaces lost their power. And populations began moving. This is where the Sea Peoples enter the story. Egyptian inscriptions from the reign of Ramesses III describe several groups arriving in a massive movement. Among the names recorded are the Pehle Set, Sheker, Shikalesh, Denyen, and others. But these names don't give us a simple answer. Were they separate tribes? Different armies? Migrating populations? Or groups from different regions who joined together? The ancient Egyptians saw them as a dangerous threat. Modern historians still debate what they were. The most famous evidence comes from the mortuary temple of Ramesses III at Medinet Habu in Egypt. Its walls contain detailed inscriptions describing a major conflict. According to the Egyptian account, the Sea Peoples had already destroyed lands elsewhere. Their movement was so powerful, the inscription claims that no kingdom could stand before them. Then they turned toward Egypt. But Ramesses III was ready. The Egyptians prepared both land forces and ships. The invading fleet entered the waters of the Nile Delta. And there, the Egyptians launched a carefully planned attack. The temple reliefs show Egyptian archers firing from the shore while ships clash on the water. Enemy vessels are overturned. Warriors fall into the river, and Egyptian soldiers capture survivors. Ramesses III declared victory. But this is where historians must be cautious. Ancient kings were not exactly known for writing modest reports about their victories. The Egyptian inscription presents Ramesses as the great defender of civilization. It may exaggerate the scale of the threat, yet something important probably did happen. Egypt survived, but the wider Bronze Age world did not remain the same. The Hittite Empire disappeared. Mycenaean palace civilization declined. Several major cities were destroyed or abandoned. And the international system that had connected these kingdoms for centuries broke apart. For a long time, historians blamed the entire collapse on the Sea Peoples. The story seemed simple. Mysterious invaders arrived. They destroyed the great kingdoms. And the Bronze Age ended. But modern archaeology has made the story much more complicated. Climate change may have caused droughts. Food shortages may have triggered migration. Political conflicts could have weakened governments. Earthquakes may have destroyed vulnerable cities. And once trade networks collapsed, kingdoms that depended on imported resources may have faced economic disaster. The Sea Peoples may not have caused the collapse alone. They may have been one part of a much larger catastrophe. One of the biggest mysteries is where the Sea Peoples came from. Some researchers have connected certain groups with places in the Aegean world. Others have proposed Anatolia, the islands of the Mediterranean, or regions farther west. The name Pehle said has often been connected with the Philistines who later lived along the southern coast of Canaan. Archaeological discoveries in the region show cultural changes around this period. New pottery styles appear. New architectural traditions emerge. And evidence suggests that people with different cultural backgrounds began settling in the area. Could these people have been part of the Sea Peoples? Possibly, but it is not proven. Another mystery concerns their motives. Were they conquerors? Or were they desperate migrants? Egyptian artwork sometimes depicts women and children traveling alongside the warriors. That detail has led some historians to believe that at least some groups were not simply military invaders. They may have been entire communities searching for a new place to live. Imagine what that could mean. A civilization collapses, crops fail, trade disappears, cities become unsafe, and thousands of people begin moving toward regions they believe can support them. Some may fight, some may raid, some may settle, and some may simply be trying to survive. In that sense, the Sea Peoples may have been both victims and aggressors in a world already falling apart. And that may explain why they remain so difficult to identify. They weren't necessarily one mysterious nation. They could have been a mixture of displaced peoples, warriors, sailors, and refugees brought together by a period of extraordinary instability. The Bronze Age collapse was not the story of one enemy defeating the ancient world. It was a chain reaction, and the Sea Peoples may have been one of the most visible parts of it. After the Bronze Age collapse, the Mediterranean world changed dramatically. The great palace civilizations of the previous centuries were gone. Long-distance trade became more difficult. Political power shifted. New kingdoms emerged. And the ancient world entered a very different era. Yet the Sea Peoples left behind almost no written record of their own. That is perhaps the greatest mystery of all. We know them almost entirely through the eyes of the civilizations that encountered them. The Egyptians called them enemies. Later historians gave them a collective name. Archaeologists try to reconstruct their identity from fragments scattered across thousands of miles. But their own voices are almost completely silent. Maybe that is why the Sea Peoples have become one of history's greatest mysteries. They appear suddenly in the historical record. They seem to move across the Mediterranean. They collide with powerful kingdoms. And then, they disappear. But perhaps they never truly disappeared. Some groups may have settled in new lands. Some may have merged with local populations. Some may have become part of new cultures that emerged after the collapse. Their story reminds us of something important about history. Civilizations can look permanent, right up until the moment they aren't. A powerful empire can fall because of war. A city can disappear because of drought. A trade network can collapse because one link breaks. And ordinary people can be forced to move across entire regions simply because the world they knew no longer exists. The Sea Peoples may have been invaders. They may have been migrants. They may have been refugees. Or perhaps they were all three. More than 3,000 years later, we still cannot say for certain who they were. And perhaps the most fascinating question isn't where the Sea Peoples came from, but what happened to them after they vanished from history. Because somewhere beneath the ruins of the ancient Mediterranean, story be waiting to be discovered.